Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back here. And it's me once again, your outgoing branch chairman for IIRSM Qatar branch. And tonight, we'll be talking about introduction to three different international standards, which I guess a number of you are already familiar with some of the standards. So tonight will be is our first monthly meeting and CPD presentation, as we were not able to do it last month of January. So be with me, and I hope you'll be able to pick up something from this presentation. So tonight, as outlined here, allow me first to talk about the committee volunteers for 2025 and also the IIRSM Risk Excellence Award in 50th anniversary before I proceed to my presentation. And after my presentation, we will have a discussion, question and answer. If you have something that you can share with us, I guess we have the chat box where Julie can monitor. And if you have some insights as well, please feel free to share them with us. So, yes, indeed, this year, IIRSM is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Wow, what a privilege to be a part of the milestone of this organization. And last year, IIRSM Qatar branch also celebrated its 10th anniversary, having been founded in 2014. Unfortunately, we were not able to have that celebration for some reasons. But anyhow, I hope that the new group of committee officers and members will be able to give their ideas on how we can partake in the 50th anniversary of our organization. So just to introduce to you guys our new committee members, and I'm so happy that these gentlemen have stepped forward after how many months of encouraging all of you to take part in running our organization. This is our organization, and so we need to help each other run this. So just to introduce to you, our incoming chairman will be an old member of WRSM in the person of Ruke Diconha, and the vice chair is Tahir Farouki, our secretary Olivera Revilla, and then we have two CPD committee members. They will help me and of course the rest of the guys to come up with the CPD programs. We have Harun Rashid and Imam Hussein, and I will not be stepping away from you, but now I can concentrate my being a branch ambassador. And still we have our technical advisors, our former chairman, Dipo Ravi Kumar, and of course, a very good friend of WRSM, Riz Shahal, and Santos Pilay, and of course, one of our mentors, Viv Turner. So for this year until 2026, 2027, they will be our frontliners to run the organization. And of course, it's going to be an exciting year because these guys for sure will come up with the programs that all of us will benefit. So after this presentation tonight, we will be on the process of finalizing their being volunteers with all the paperworks, and soon also we will be meeting each other to come up with some programs, and we will let you know what's going to happen next with our branch having this new set of committee members. So be with us, and for sure we will all benefit from each other. So tonight, I decided to talk about introduction to governance, risk management, compliance, international standards. The reason why I decided to give this, I've noticed that most of us are so familiar with so many standards, but as we are all considering ourselves as leaders in our own little way, I believe that there's that importance of looking at these standards as we all take part in governing our organization in our best capacity, and also we're so familiar with managing different risk and safety issues. And yes, indeed, we comply to a lot of standards, regulations, whether local or international. And so also this has been part of my continuing education. And I know that we will all learn from this. This is not really a very comprehensive talk tonight, but somehow we'll be able to pick up ideas as to what GRC is all about, and how do we take a look at it and perhaps adapt or maybe use some of the content that we'll be able to apply in our organization. So, what is this all about? These are all about three very important subjects in our organization. We have governance, we have risk management, and we have compliance. These are all standards, and of course, these are international standards, which serves as frameworks and guidelines that any organization can use to align the way they govern their organization, the way risks are being managed, and of course, and to ensure that laws, regulations, internal policies, standards from authorities having jurisdictions can be applied. So, guys, there are three subjects in this brief presentation of mine, and I'm going to challenge you that as you take a look at this and capture the content of this as I speak, perhaps you can take note, or once this will be made available to our members, then you can expound on this, and perhaps we can decipher the three different subjects and make this also as part of our continuing education, being into our practice of risk and safety management. So the main objectives of these standards, well, this is not really, um, let me say, mandatory that we capture them and apply in our organization, but to give us an idea, why is it good and how beneficial is it for us to look at these standards, because we will be able to comply with regulations while managing, look at the phrase here, financial risk. So as we always say, our organization is not only into safety, but in the whole spectrum of the organizational risk. And one of the risks that we may face in our business is finances. So what are those regulations? We're so familiar with the Anti-Money Laundering Act. And the Anti-Money Laundering Act does not only refer to the organization itself, but even the people inside. We can be involved in Anti-Money Laundering Act, and so in our own capacity, we can take some information about complying with regulations in terms of managing the financial aspect of the organization. And also, if we have some members here, or if you know someone who's working in the healthcare industry, this is very interesting because GRC can ensure that there will be patient data protection. And other than that, we will be able to manage clinical risks and comply with clinical or medical safety standards. You know, as I work in government healthcare institution, for us, data protection is very important because we have laws and regulation that pertains to confidentiality of patient records, and also having this, will be able to maintain transparency and manage risks in government projects while ensuring regulatory compliance. And I believe here in our branch in Qatar, we have a number of members, committee members that are working under the subsidy of government institution. And so it's imperative that we know what are the regulatory compliance that we must adhere to. And another interesting thing is that GRC will help us with cyber threats protection. So it's not very specific to just a very single standard, but looking at governance, risk management, and compliance standards, there's a mix up of a number of things. We can even have management of environmental and operational risks specifically. And then we can also ensure quality control and workplace safety. As our organization talks about risk and safety management, there's also subject here that pertains to quality control. And we can manage other risks depending on the risk domain or the risk criteria that the organization is able to establish according to our risk management framework. And so let's try to look at each of these standard. What do we mean by it, and how how we can look at the dimension of the standard that pertains specifically to governing the organization. Governance is basically the system by which our organization is being directed and controlled so that we will be able to achieve our set objectives. So what does it entail? It entails leadership. Of course, when we say governance, there's always that concept of leadership commitment, from buy-in from top to bottom. And then what guides us in running our organization? Of course, we have our policies and procedures, and then our structure, who sits in where, and who does what. And then, of course, the processes that would ensure accountability, transparency, fairness, and ethical behavior. So this is what governance is all about. And the standard that specifically talks about this in terms of governing an organization is the International Organization for Standardization 37,000 of 2021. So there's a definition here of governance, of which the standard says that governance is a human-driven system by which an organization is directed, provided with oversight, and the organization per se is held accountable to achieve its defined purpose. So we are all part of the governance, being leaders in risk and safety. We're all part of this because we hold different responsibilities, and those responsibilities also entail accountability to our superiors. And this standard was established in 2021, and to be specific with the month, it's September. Now, risk management, we're all familiar with this. We've been talking about this for several times already. And it's basically the process of how we identify, how we assess, how we control the risks that may impact, whether adversely or positively, when we talk about achieving our objectives. And risk management ensures that we proactively manage those risks rather than reactively. And the standards that are referred to here are the ISO 31,000 of 2018, and also the Committee of Sponsoring Organization Enterprise Risk Management Standard of 2017. So some of you who are into risk management practice, you're basically familiar with the ISO risk management principles, framework, and risk management processes, I mean. And also, you must also be familiar with the COSO ERM, and the famous standards that they had was the 2009, and it's now replaced by the 2017, of which in 2009, the standard talks about the cubes, and in 2017, it's now what we call the COSO ERM helix. So if you may search for this and differentiate these two standards, it will be good for you so that you can further explore what is there in each of these standard that you can say they are practicable, and we can apply them in our organization. So the ISO 31,000 of 2018 defines risk management as coordinated activities of which our organization is directed and controlled with regards to risk. So we are all familiar with the word risks, which of course either positive or negative or the other way around, and of which We used to think that when we talk about risk pertains or refers to uncertainty, but in the standard, we get to know that risk can be negative risk, which we call as threat, and of course, we need to control. And on the other end, is the positive risk, which is an opportunity, and we may need to exploit. And ERM, as the word enterprise says, it's all about the entire organization being able to stay away from the traditional risk management practice, which is in silo. And silo means that each department may differently manage their own risks. But at the end of the day, when you talk about the organization has to manage the overall risk that would impede the achievement of objectives. So ERM, COSO ERM defines risk management as process affected by an entity's board of directors, management, and other personnel. So here you will see from the boardroom to the shop floor or to the front line, of which strategies being set by people at the board can be applied across the whole enterprise. And this has been designed to identify potential events that may affect the entity and manage risk to be within its risk appetite. So yes, of course, I presume that all of us are also familiar with the term risk appetite. And thirdly, we have the compliance standard, which refers to adherence to legal requirements, regulatory requirements, our own internal policies, and to ensure that we operate within the required rules and ethical guidelines. And the standard here that is mentioned is the ISO 37301 of 2021. And it defines compliance as a system of which the outcome of an organization meets its compliance obligation. So you may wonder, in some organizations, they include compliance as one of the risk domains identified by the organization. But here we are talking about a specific standard that talks about compliance management system, which is interesting for us. Now, going back into the each standard, there are different elements that are referred to in here. And looking at it, of course, the governance standard must have its own purpose. And basically, the purpose of the standard is, of course, to provide the proper direction in its entirety, covering all the aspects of how the business is run, of course, from strategic to financial, and in between are the different components of what is to be governed in running the organization, whether it is a profit organization or a non-profit organization. And then the governing body responsibilities, of which from out of those responsibilities lies also the accountability, responsibilities inside and accountability both inside and outside. And also leadership and culture is very important in governance, because the leadership is how the organization will be led and brought to its destination. In culture is how should people um, interact with each other in such a way that the behavior would be a behavior that would bring the organization into having a common goal of being led and achieving its objective. Strategy and oversight. Strategy is all about what has been set so that we can have a guiding document as to being led, and as to what will be executed, and who will be providing the execution of those strategies. And of course, for us, even if we do not belong to the top management, we also have the responsibility to oversee people below us. As we in the middle management, we are always considered to be the bridge between people at the shop floor and people at the boardroom. And then stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder can be internal stakeholder, all the interested parties involved within the organization. And then we can also have the external stakeholders, of which these people may not really have that legally binding, or they may have legally binding according to how they contribute to the organization, such as vendors, suppliers, outsourced individuals. They should be engaged, because in risk management process, they need to be communicated as well or consulted. And so in the governance standard, they are also within the standard, because they need to be governed as well. And so there has to be a strategy as to how will they be governed. And also the risk governance. When we talk about risk governance, is who will be responsible for doing which part of risk management execution. So people at the front line, they must be taught on how to conduct suitable and sufficient risk assessment, of which our risks will be extracted, will be filtered, and then will be communicated to the top management, and the top management will take a look at it, whether those risks are really the risk identified as part of the enterprise risk management, or whether this risk can go back to the shop floor, that can be randomly controlled by those people at that level. And also performance and accountability. Performance, it means to say that we execute what needs to be executed, and someone has to be accountable to that. So in terms of performance, what do we do so that we can have that guarantee that indeed we operate according to the set objectives? Of course, we need indicators that would tell us if we are achieving our goals, or that would give us an idea if we are really performing, or do we lag, or do we lead in terms of what has been identified to be our performance indicators. And then ethics and integrity. In governing an organization, the entire image of the organization depends on how ethics are practiced, how ethics are cultured within the organization, and its integrity, or the reputation of the organization is also a very important factor of the element of the organization, and they need to be governed as well. So that's about the elements of a governance management system. And next, let's go into the ISO 31000 of 2018 risk management guidelines. So here, I guess I don't need to go through all the elements here, but just to have a brief walkthrough with you in the principles, the framework, and the processes. So when you talk about enterprise risk management, because nowadays, if you've been doing your CPD, especially in risk management, you will be confused that a talk is about risk management, but inside risk management, what is being discussed is enterprise risk management. Now, enterprise risk management is basically all about valuing the organization. And when we say valuing the organization, it's all about the entire elements of the organization. We have the people, we have the processes, we have the um, uh, all the resources that runs the organization. So value is very important, because um, from all of these principles, we create and we protect value. So if we talk about value, we're talking about the value of the entire organization or the enterprise itself. So what do we need to do? Risk management has to be integrated in our everyday practice. and there has to be a structure, and the structure needs to cover all the entire operation. So from the shop floor to the boardroom, there must be a structure, and the totality of the operational function of the organization must be covered. And of course, it has to be tailored fit. What is our business line? If our business line is manufacturing, then we need to design our risk management in accordance with the way we run our business. And it has to be inclusive. Inclusive means we involve everyone. Our external stakeholders, they are a very important part of our organization because they are also um, contributing to our business. Like for example, your suppliers. If you don't involve your suppliers, say for example, you receive materials that are of substandards or that do not comply with your environmental management standards. So what do you do? So in this case, if the organization is not aware of environmental management standard, but then your external stakeholder or your supplier knows what they're doing, there's a great disconnect between us and our supplier, or the other way around. And so if we have been certified in environmental management standard, and so when we talk about supplies and then our supplier is not certified, then we need to communicate with them. We need to communicate with them in terms of the gaps that we have, because they bring in materials for our operational use. So I hope you can picture out what I'm trying to say. And that's what inclusivity means. We include everyone in our business sphere, externally and internally. And then we all know that risks do change. So our risk management system should also be able to take a look at the dynamics of risks. If today our risk is low, tomorrow our risk might be medium. If our risk is high today, tomorrow it might become low. So again, it's very dynamic. It keeps on changing. It does not stay in just one location. And also, information is very important. We must capitalize on the best available information. That's why documentation is very important, because from our document we will be able to extract information. And also again, we also need to talk about our strength, our weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, especially with the external information that may impact the way we run our business. And then we have human and cultural factors. In any organization, it is always believed that the worker was groomed from his household affects the way how he or she behaves in the organization. And so culturally speaking, it's also important to know about where did the worker come from, his origin, because we need to connect it into the way we behave inside the organization. With that, we can establish training programs. We can do workplace walkthrough, random or regular inspection, so that we can find out if the worker is not behaving the way the rest of the workers are behaving. Then it will become a contributing factor to either having a risk of injury or having a risk of damaging our equipment. And lastly, we need to continually improve. We cannot just say we started from somewhere else, and then as we continue our business journey along the line, we stop the operation because there are some gaps, and these gaps are a recurrence of the previous gaps, and we were not able to learn our lesson. And so we need to ensure that from how we started, we should be able to move along with the trends of which we can improve our processes continually. That's about the risk management principles. And then the framework talks about leadership and commitment. Um, Leadership um, um, has to be integrated in all the spheres, in all the areas of the business operation. And the design of the risk management, it has to be as per international standard. And of course, admittedly, we are all dependent into the standards which we can consider as very practicable and adaptable to us. And of course, implementation. And implementation must be monitored. When we say implementation, someone has to be responsible to doing what? Because after the implementation, while we are monitoring it, we need to evaluate how have we performed. And so as we evaluate it, whether we are progressing or we are lagging in um, achieving our objectives, then we need to consider improving our system. So the framework requires leadership and commitment, because in risk management, if you don't have a buy-in from the top management, then it will be difficult for us, because risk management entails a lot of requirements. And then finally, you have the risk management process. And this is one of the, after establishing everything from the principles to the framework, then now it's about time for us to execute, or to put the process into reality. So how do we do that? We need to know what's our scope and the context of operation. Scope means what do we cover, and then the context is what is inside, and then our risk criteria. What are those risks that we need to consider, which also are called as risk domains. So we need to establish them, and only then we'll be able to do risk assessment. So for you guys who are into risk and safety, you might get confused here that in the risk management process, risk assessment covers three things. Guys, I just want to remind you that we're talking about risk management guidelines, okay? We can talk about risk and safety assessment in another time, which just talks about health and safety itself. But in this, for now, we're talking about risk management. So risk assessment covers three elements. We have the risk identification. We need to identify the risk, and then we need to analyze the risk, and we need to evaluate the risk. So analyzing the risk is um, what risks does belong to our set risk criteria. So in some organizations, as I mentioned earlier, they consider compliance risk as one of the risk domains. So there are around at least 8, but to compress them, I may mention a strategic risk, compliance risk, operational risk, and financial risk. And you can just include some other risks that you may know of in each of those 4 domains. And so we need to analyze the risk. After we have identified the risk, we analyze them, and then we evaluate them. In risk evaluation, this is where we use risk matrix. So again, as I've said, a lot of us are familiar with the 3x3 risk matrix, which talks about 1 to 3 or 3x3. The maximum is 9, the lowest is 1. And we can just simply translate it to low, medium, or high. 1 to 3 is low, and then we have 4 to 6 is medium, and then 6 to 9 is um, high. So that's all about 3x3 matrix. But in the risk management guidelines, we are using the 5x5 matrix, of which the maximum is 25. And from that, after evaluating your risks, then you have to consider your controls. I don't use the term risk treatment, because risk treatment is one of the risk control strategies that we need to do. So you need to control your risks, whether you avoid it, you reduce it, you treat it, or you transfer. and then you accept the risks. So basically, those are the most common risk control strategies. And then, of course, you document it. As we've said that in our risk management principle, we use the best available information, and available in this information can be derived from our records and reports. And so once we have recorded and reported our risks, then we need to monitor and review the effectiveness of our risk control measures. Now, guys, if you look at communication and consultation, some of you might still be thinking of what they call this interconnectivity of the elements of the risk process. But in here, in the 2018, we are now talking about a cyclical process of risk management. Okay, so that's why here you don't see any line interconnecting the different elements of the risk management process, but instead what you see here is that the different elements of the process are embedded into a circle, because that circle means a cycle. And so also, I also want to emphasize that communication and consultation is not the last part of the risk management process. It depends on how you interpret your risks, whether you first communicate it and consult your stakeholders, whether external or internal stakeholders, whoever may be considered as part of the identified risk. They need to be communicated and consulted before you assess them. Okay, so basically this is the ISO 31028 and risk management guidelines. If some of you are a little bit confused or interested in the way I have explained it, you can let us know if we need to go through this again part by part for our learning process. All right, and so let's move on into the third part of the standard, which is the compliance standard, ISO 37301-2021, which is considered as the compliance management system. So once again, leadership and commitment is very important. As we've said, if the top people are not involved, are not committed, then how can we comply with the requirements? And of course, we need to have a policy. And policy, they are very straightforward. We need to have the statement of purpose. We need to have our organizational structure to tell us who will do what, and of course, our arrangement as to um, who is responsible for this, who will take the accountability. And then the obligation to comply. We need to know the different rules and regulations that we need to report as required by authorities having jurisdiction. And then, of course, our approach should be risk-based. This must not be something new to us anymore, because being in the risk management field, or being into risk and safety, mean only that we need to be risk-based in every approach that we do to everything that we do in our everyday lives. And roles and responsibilities are also very important, because otherwise, if we cannot identify who is responsible for doing this, then we will not be able to establish the responsibilities. And then the compliance culture. Yes, culture is the collection of behavior that we all combine together. And so if our culture is very poor in complying to simple policies internally, then we may have difficulty in complying external requirements. So that's why culture is very important. So with our approach into it, which must be risk-based, because in culture, there are also different risks that we may face. And then our operational controls. Our operational controls basically refers to how are people controlled, not necessarily all about command, but how do they operate? What are the policies that governs them? And then our equipments, our materials, or assets and properties. as part of our operation, and then of course the operational environment. And we have our performance monitoring and continuous improvement as our um, gauge on taking a look at how we are performing, whether we are improving, whether we are regressing. And of course, reporting and documentation is very important because from here, we will be able to extract information that would tell us if we are doing things properly. So, putting it in table, when we talk about governance standard, we have here the definition, the purpose, the core principles, the key elements, and then the leadership role, the risk management approach, monitoring and evaluation, and then outcome goals. And for each of these elements, on the left side, you will see the corresponding component of the governance standard. Right, so I don't think I have to go through this. This is just basically about a summary of what I have just explained from the different components or elements of GRC standards. And then the ISO 31000, also on the black text here, you have the corresponding rationale or meaning of how is it defined, what's its purpose, and so on and so forth. And so with the compliance standard. And in summary, how governance, risk management, and compliance standard works together. So it provides the go for governance. It provides the strategic oversight and the leadership framework. Of course, we're talking about how an organization will be provided with oversight, who are the people who are in there, the connection of the people at the shop floor towards the people at the boardroom. And then for the risk management, our process of identifying our risk and controlling them, and of course, monitoring the effectiveness of each control measure, and our compliance standard, so that we are guaranteed that we are in adherence to laws, regulations, and internal policies. So that's it as our introduction to these three different standards. I do not know if you have some question. I will ask Julie if, yeah, I can see here two messages in the chat box. So let me just read them. First statement is, welcome to this evening's Qatar branch meeting. And here we have message from Asif Javed Khan. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Thanks for the brief familiarization with GRC. However, I have a question. Please, could you share some examples of how companies have successfully integrated GRC into their operations? Just for the sake of not naming different organizations, yes, indeed. How are they adapting it? Well, it's not that they're adapting entirely the three standards, but I know a number of organizations who are applying this already. And try to check your organization. When it comes to compliance standard, look at what are those things that pertains to government laws and regulation that you are complying with, and then looking at the different components of the compliance standard from leadership and commitment down to our continuous improvement. Look at all this process, and then it may not be really directly all about the standard, but you will see if your organization is in compliance. All right. Also with risk management, you as part of your organization and being into risk and safety management practices, I guess you can consider your organization to be into risk management, because all of our risks have to be identified and they need to be managed. Like, for example, how do we manage our um, uh, assets and properties? How do we manage our workers in terms of injury prevention? So that's already part of risk management. And also for governance, again, let me say that it may not be directly in accordance with the ISO 37,000, but I guess you are into that. Okay. Now, Javed, Asif, I mean, um, i- since you are already here and you have seen the different components and you may dig deep down into this and look at your organization, you may say that your organization is somewhat aligning to these standards, not to mention the commercial standards that we mentioned in here tonight. But of course, operationally speaking, you may be already in alignment with these standards. All right. So it's a very good insight, and thank you for that, Asif. Ferdinand Muguso, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm a new IRSM member. How to join the Qatar branch? All right, Ferdinand, um, I will text here my number. I am in WhatsApp, so um, keep in touch with me, and we will include you in our WhatsApp group to become part of the IIRSM Qatar branch. Is there any other question that I may read here? Otherwise,
I
um,
think Waleed has his hand raised. I think he might want to ask a question. Let me
yeah,
see if I
sure,
can
please.
update him. Okay, I'm going to allow you to. Oh, he's put his hand down now, so I don't think he does
Okay,
want to ask a question.
okay. Right.
Yeah.
So, well, it's not only about question. Anything that you may want to share with us as your organizational experience, please do so. After all, this is all about us. There's another message here in the chat. Let me just take a look at it. From Amin, is it mandatory to own integrated management system before proceeding for those standards? Not necessarily, not necessarily. I would say, let me say that first of all, if you are, I guess, I believe you are in the middle management part of your organization. I would say that look at your organizational structure and then look at how your organization is being managed and then find out if, as per your knowledge, there are things that may need to be addressed with reference to the standard. Do so that you'll be able to say that you may need to recommend international standards to be adopted, and then on your way to a stepping stone towards being certified internationally. So I would recommend it that way. Yes, that's true, Mr. Oliver. It is an interesting topic indeed, but sad reality is that well, they have every organization they have their own reason why compliance is an issue. But of course, we are in this part of the world where we have a diverse um, work culture, and also our management is also comprised of leaders with different way of managing things. And so yes, indeed, it all involves a lot of factors why we say that some are not in compliance, and it depends also on how do you define compliance, locally, nationally, or internationally. All right. So guys, I don't see any more question, any more insight. So just some couple of announcement. Our next scheduled meetings are as follows: 25th March, 29th April, 27th May, 24th June. And this has been calendared already with the UK IRSM office, courtesy of Julie. So please take note of this. And starting next month, it will be our incoming chairman, Ruke, who will be presiding the meeting, and of course with the assistance of the rest of the committees. So let's all welcome this beautiful gentleman who have stepped forward to steer our organization. But rest assured that I will still be around to support the new set of leaders. And guys, this is a very, very good encouragement for all of us that anyone can take part in leading the organization. And also, may I suggest that if you have a topic in mind, please let us know in our WhatsApp group, and we will see if that can be delivered. Or you may want to step forward and give your own topic in terms of risk and safety. Please do so. All right. So we will keep in touch, and in the next meeting, our chairman will inform us to the upcoming things with our branch. So thank you so much for all your support, guys.